Hello and welcome to another video dealing with current liabilities. This time we're going to talk about payroll tax payable. Let me do a quick screen share and show you a company's September payroll. Before we go into the details of the September payroll, let me explain how the payroll taxes work. When an employee works for an employer at an agreed upon rate, the compensation, there's one step to the calculation as the salaries and wages expense is based on the agreed upon rate. Beyond that, what else goes on? The employee may have agreed to have the employer withhold certain amounts on their behalf. The most common one would be federal income tax and state income tax withheld from our paychecks. There could be some additional optional withholdings, such as union dues. It could be a pension contribution. I could be contributing to a medical plan. There could be a variety of other contributions that are taken out of my paycheck because I requested that to happen. That is an employee's contribution. It's coming out of the employee's paycheck. Now, the payroll taxes I mentioned earlier, there are two parts to it. One is FICA and the other is the unemployment tax. The FICA tax has two parts, Social Security and Medicare. The Social Security and Medicare taxes have to be paid both by the employee and the employer. So there's a matching amount. So over and above your paycheck, what the employer is giving you, the employer has also to make a similar contribution. The unemployment tax is paid only by the employer. The employee doesn't contribute to the unemployment tax. So let's look at the details for this particular company, and we'll start writing this out over here so we understand which numbers are subject to a tax and which ones are not. So to start with, we have this company, and this is for the month of September. The payroll, the total amount is $480,000, which means when you're looking at the hours worked multiplied by the hourly rate, it works out to 480,000. Now, of that amount, we are told that 110,000 is exempt from Social Security tax because it represents amounts paid in excess of 128,400 for certain employees. So what I'm concerned with over here right now for this problem is, of the 480,000, if 110 is exempt, 370 is not, which means on 370,000, that amount is subject to a tax. We'll get to the details of what the tax is, but right, the tax rate, but now we know what amount is subject to the tax. Okay, let's continue reading. The amount paid to employees in excess of 7,000 was $400,000. So of the 480,000, the amount in excess of 7,000 per employee is 480,000. Now this applies to the unemployment tax. So the unemployment tax is paid on the first $7,000 per employee. So if 400,000 is exempt, how much is not exempt? 80,000. 480 minus 400, 80,000 is subject to that tax. Once again, remember, only the employer pays unemployment tax, so it doesn't apply over here to the employee. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's continue reading over here. The state unemployment rate, the tax rate is 3.5%, but yellow card company is allowed a credit of 2.3% by the state for its unemployment experience. So basically, we're looking at the state's tax rate is 3.5%, but the state is giving me a break. They're giving me a credit of 2.3%, which means the state, the rate that I'm going to pay is going to be only 1.2%. Okay, let's continue reading here. Assume that the current FICA tax is 7.65 on the employee's wages of up to 128,400 and 1.45 in excess of that amount. Okay, so this number, it's 6.2. How did I come up with 6.2? 7.65 minus 1.45 is 6.2. The Medicare, okay, is subject, the full amount is subject to the 1.45%. So what we're looking at over here is the total rate is 7.65%. 7.65 is the total FICA rate. The total rate is 7.65%. Of that 1.45, regardless of what the amount is, the income is of the individual that who works for you, the employees, Medicare taxes on the entire income. But the Social Security tax of 6.2% is only on the first 128, 400,000 per employee. So this amount has not yet, most of your employees are not going to get to that amount unless you're at a company where everyone works, everyone makes high wages, okay? So typically when you're looking at hourly workers, they're not going to get to that amount very easily. So now that I have those rates, it's going to be the same as you recall on both sides, what the employer and the employee pay. Okay, let's continue reading here. Is there any more information? No employee for yellow card company makes more than 125,000. That's what I mentioned earlier. The federal unemployment rate is 0.8% after state credit. So the federal rate is 0.8%. Okay, so now that we have all of this information over here, and I missed the information over here that says we have income tax of 80,000 is withheld and 9,000 in union dues. That is amounts withheld over here. 80,000 and 9,000 has been withheld. That information was over here. I'm sorry, I skipped that part over there. So this is basically agreed upon based on the W-4s that employees fill out. The employer has withheld 80,000. Union dues is based on what the employee has asked them to withhold. Okay. So now that I have this information, let me do some calculations. 370,000 times 6.2% is 22,940, and 480,000 times 1.45 is 6,960. And obviously those numbers are going to be the same here. And then we have the unemployment tax for the federal and the state. And those numbers are 640 and 960 respectively. So let's get on to the journal entry, which is what we're interested in on September 30th, 2020. Salaries and wages expense debit, we knew that amount. That was the very first number they gave us, the 480,000. Of this amount, we have withheld federal income tax, that's a number from there, $80,000. I have withheld union dues for my employees based on what they asked me to, that's $9,000. I had to withhold FICA taxes, that's Social Security and Medicare. These amounts combined give me $29,900. And then finally, I have the balancing figure. This is a plug number. The net paycheck is $361,100. So as employees, the employees are seeing this coming to them on the Friday when they get their paycheck, $361,100. But the employer has actually paid $480,000. All these are withholdings. These are liabilities that have to be given to the appropriate authority. Federal income tax goes to the IRS. Union dues will go to the union. The FICA will go to the Social Security and Medicare offices. That's where those amounts are going to go. Now, in addition to that, the employer is paying taxes. What are they paying? They're paying all these amounts. These amounts are to be paid. All of those put together are called payroll taxes. So payroll tax expense debit, that's going to be the balancing figure. The FICA is going to be the exact same number that you took out from the employee's paycheck. The employer has to pay that as well. The next number is the federal unemployment, that is $640, and the state unemployment is $960. That all adds up to a total of, oops, I should not have put that in black, although most companies do feel that they're in the black, they're in the red for it, 31,500. Okay, so for the employer, if you ask, what is their total cost of payroll? It's 480,000 plus 31,500. They have the salaries and wages expenses, and they have taxes over and above that. That's their total cash outflow. Both these numbers put together, that's how much cash they're going to pay out. The employees, this is all they're seeing, but the employer's payroll is much higher. So payroll tax, again, is an example of a current liability. All of these amounts have to be remitted to the relevant authorities within a very short period of time. Typically, it's within a month. In a few cases, state taxes, it could take a little longer before you remit the money to the appropriate agency. But in no case is it going to be more than 3 months. So it definitely comes in as a current liability. Most companies are not able to manage this kind of detailed accounting, which is why you have the payroll companies that do exclusively just this job for you. So all you need to tell the payroll companies who your employees are, what their hourly rates are, how many hours they worked. All of these details you will give it to the payroll company, and they do all of these calculations. But ultimately the journal entry is yours, and you're the one writing out the check, and you're the one responsible for those liabilities. Although the payroll company will send out the checks to the various agencies, they're doing it on your behalf. And obviously there's a cost attached to it. So with this, we will finish this particular liability and then move on to compensated absence.